welcome to another edition of Maximum Growth Live. I'm one of your hosts, Jay Ruane, CEO of FirmFlex, your social media marketing agency for lawyers, as well as CEO of Ruane Attorneys, a civil rights and criminal defense firm here in Connecticut. With me, as always, my man, Seth Price, down there in the Price Benowitz / Blue Shark office that he has with his man of many hats. Price Benowitz, your DC, Maryland, Virginia, and New York and South Carolina law firm, as well as Blue Shark, SEO for lawyers. Seth, you're the man. How's your day going?
It's going well. It's a little crazy. COVID is everywhere. So we are getting, as everybody does, get on a plane to head to Florida where there is no COVID.
Oh, fantastic. Well, let me tell you, during this taping of the show, you might hear some banging, and it's not me stomping my feet. Below me in the family garage, I have someone downstairs fixing the garage door that I tried to back out through last night at 11 o'clock to catch up to the Santa fire truck. I looked at the camera on the minivan and it showed me driveway, and so I floored it, but it had not gone up all the way. And so
Oof.
now I have a V hanging out and I can't get it up or down. So
Oh,
we've got some
God.
people here working on it. So that was my last 24 hours. But, we also found in storage a file that we've been looking for 2 years for some paperwork that we needed that was in an unlabeled box. So good, take the good with the bad. That's how
Couldn't
my
agree
week is
more.
going.
Couldn't agree more. I spent much of my day, we've been doing some great work with a fractional CFO, and we've been going through and looking at, attorney by attorney profitability, and had some really good calls with the attorneys that are sort of like right at the Mendoza line. And I say that like it's actually above that. Like, these are guys that Mendoza's too low, but are like the 270 hitters, right? It's fine, but with a little bit of extra effort, they could be 300 hitters.
Yeah.
And it's figuring stuff out. And one of the life moments I just had was one of my favorite lawyers of the firm, powerhouse, dynamo, great lawyer, huge, imposing, positive presence. He hasn't raised his prices in years. And it's like, I looking at his Zoom background and I'm like, it looks like a schlocky B-C+ credenza behind him. And I'm like, can we get a freaking at least virtual background on you? You're the top lawyer in your market as a criminal defense guy. Can we at least get pricing that's appropriate? You can always discount it where you need to, but it's just frustrating when you see a guy, like, shocking that he's performing under value when he's charging essentially like mid-tier to bottom tier rates.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's just frustrating because it's all in your head, right? It's all this guy objectively, 25 years out of law school, knows his stuff as good as anybody, cares. This guy should be getting top dollar, and instead it's just mediocre dollar, which is why he's batting 265.
Yeah, the stuff with that is that, a lot of lawyers, they may be excellent lawyers, but they lack the confidence in their business side. And so they're afraid to quote those fees that might be significantly larger than some of their colleagues because, they've diverted. Their colleagues sort of maxed out. They continue to grow, study, get better and better, but they still see themselves as contemporaries of the people they graduated with who haven't really put in that time or investment. And so I think that one of the things that any law firm should do this time of year is take a good hard look at what you are charging people. And now's the great time with the new year coming to make some alterations. Maybe if it's you have either attorney or non-attorney salespeople that are helping you, or if you're quoting your own fees, identify where you have room to grow in that area. In fact, I said something to you. I've got two associates that have joined me in the last year, and they are both moving to a new location in another part of the state. And I said, hey, we could probably get into a whole new practice group. But one of the things that I immediately said after talking to you and your team at Blue Shark with my sales lawyer and my partners, how do we price this? Because we don't want to come in and price it too low and wind up with a ton of cases that we're not able to give attention to. Our people are stressed out. So since it's a new practice area in a new geographic area, we've got to be kind of delicate with this. And so that's something that I'm going to be working on, the whole pricing aspect of it, sort of as CEO over the next couple of weeks.
Well, I got a question for you. It's an issue that I'm sort of struggling with. I have an attorney who's very, very good substantively, hard driving, and but a whirling dervish, if it to sort of put in perspective. And the struggle that I'm having is junior attorneys that need to be trained up. It's hard to do that with a whirling dervish. They don't have the patience or time. And a senior attorney doesn't necessarily want to be micromanaged by somebody or deal with the insanity around them. Now, one thing like would be, hey, just assign separate caseloads and acknowledge that the whirling dervish can't be pyramided much, maybe with an associate, but it's going to have to be somebody junior, and you really can't push it. What are your thoughts? Because I'm failing with junior and I'm failing with senior. Or do you just say, you know what, you're going to staff this person up, but they are not somebody who can comport with other lawyers, and they're going to only grow as much as they can as a unit themselves?
This is a really timely question for me because I'm struggling with something somewhat similar. I have so let's talk about it. I've got someone in a somewhat of a senior position who has tried to take on the responsibility of doing some training, but doesn't do it the same way I would, or and quite frankly, I think there's a certain type of training that needs to be done for younger and junior lawyers working under my name, right? So that's been an issue. But we also have this whirling dervish of a lawyer who simply isn't playing well with the systems, and the time to resolve a case is taking 45 to 60% longer, and on flat fee cases, that's non-sustainable. And it, it I wish I had an easy answer for you because I'm trying to figure out among myself. In the last month, we've promoted somebody to that COO position, and that person's come back to me and said, maybe we need to make some substantive changes, and get rid of some people who've been here for a while, and in a way, they came to me with the whole, yeah, they got you here, but if we want to get to eight figures, they're never going to get you to eight figures because they can't do it. So that's a challenge that I'm at now.
No,
Um,
it's tough. And look, I remember it was sort of right as the show was launching when we swapped out firm administrators, and we had a short-lived person who came with law firm gravitas, not necessarily the B2C law firm gravitas, which is a big difference, didn't share a lot of sensibilities, and wanted to make some dramatic changes. And it's one thing, like you're sort of stuck between two worlds. And this is true for a lot of our listeners, smaller firm, bring in a firm administrator. You have your vision, you know what you want to do, and you don't want to be micromanaging, but it's your vision. And I had the situation where this person was like, hey, we need to give all these people raises. Many of what it would have been a $600,000 swing, maybe not that much net, but like a several $100,000 swing plus renting independent space for intake. If I had done everything they wanted pre-COVID, I had no idea COVID was coming, but if I had done all of that, I would have been effed,
yeah,
right? So my gut was don't take more space, and don't, even though ironically they were right at a certain extent that the market, it was not sustainable to keep people the way I was doing it at $17 an hour, $18 an hour with overtime, that you had to get to a higher sustainable salary and maybe eliminate overtime. But that what I struggle with was I wanted to give up the reins. The question is, one, are you willing to do it? But I think what's more interesting is that the right person? And if you don't trust the judgment and you don't have a simpatico, it's very scary. Now, I'll flip this and give you a second to sort of take this all in, which is our current person, knock on wood, 6 weeks in, it's been a really positive. Our sensibilities are aligned. The biggest difference is in order of priority a little bit, or I see stuff much more gray, and she, to her credit, gets shit done in a black or white, very binary. And I'm like, sometimes it's not A or B, it's somewhere in between. And the truth is, she's much more shit or get off the pot. Hey, this guy's not profitable. Why haven't you done anything? Well, it's a relationship. And I'm not going to
right.
just send an email saying, Goodbye, because these are people and I care about them. Not so much that I'm going to go on for 3 years, but I probably kick the can more than I should, trying to make sure you maintain relationships. So I guess what I throw back to you is, hey, you got somebody, but unless there's an alignment of vision and sensibility, it's not just like free reins because you want to go sit on a beach. You're not sitting on a beach, you
Right.
know, and you're there. And that to me, it's almost like this. Look, I looked at what you did when you said, I'm leaving on this date. I gave us, to me, that's the binary A, B. The right way to do it, day late, dollar short advice, perhaps, is it's a 2, 3 month, 6 month phase out where you work hand in hand on somebody, you make sure they have your sensibility, and you pull out. It could end up being much quicker, but I don't like the whole way that you went about saying, hey, on this date, I'm like, life doesn't work that way. And when you do, I think you're seeing the breaking point, sort of the issues when you do something that, because life should be a continuum where, to quote Seinfeld, when Jerry and Elaine both wanted that other couple, and that other couple broke up and they were going to be there for them, and then they just be there. That to me is the ideal transition where you're with that person and that person is just then there at one point.
Well, I mean, I did say back a couple of weeks ago, hey, I'm out, and that type of thing. But I knew for a fact that I was still going to be brought into a number of conversations,
But
and
that's
and
not the
and be
same thing.
right. So my goal is to be 100% by July 23rd, right?
But
So
you
I've
lose
started the process.
credibility when you say, ha ha, I'm out. And now you're like, well, I'm not, this guy says, well, he's out. Now it's on me. And in one sense, you want to give him some rein to screw up and give him some stuff, but it can't be on sensibility stuff.
Right.
Like the higher, like I keep saying, like my virtual thing the other day, they spent a couple $100 more than I would if I had negotiated the deal. You know what I had to say? You know what? You like the guy and you want him, go for it. It pains me because I know I could have saved, I mean, it's going to sound crazy, but $250 if I did it myself.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's those fine. But this, you're not talking about $250 here. You're talking about, a couple people, which is a substantial
We're talking
percentage
about
of
a
your
quarter of a
firm.
million dollars
That's not
easily.
nothing.
Right. Right.
And at that point, this is not, I mean, like, think about it. We're talking about 1% of an issue that I'm dealing with, that I'm thinking about, and you're talking about something that big. You're still the CEO. Like
Right.
you may want to be out of day-to-day operations, but it's not like whether you do daily, weekly, or whatever calls you're going to do with this person. It's not like this is free reign for you. It's you're going to execute for the firm. It's not just like, hey, go off, because we both know where that's going to end.
Right. No, absolutely. I mean, and that's part of the challenge of being a CEO, whether or not you're actively involved or not. I mean, the only way to get out of this thing is, I guess, just put all your money in the market in an index fund, and hope that the market doesn't tank. But every other thing you do, you're going to be involved with to some extent, even if you own residential real estate or commercial real estate, which I wouldn't want to do right now. I mean, there's a million things. The grass is always greener. I just know that in my situation, in order to grow my firm, I may have to make some tough personality
Well,
and personnel choices, not because I dislike the people, but because they're not able to get us to the next level.
right, but that's, oh look, and it's not going to be perfect, and you're going to mix and match. I get all that, but it's really a question of like giving opportunity and the ability to go there. But Jay, we talk about this in hiring. We talk about sometimes when you hire somebody, the first person you hire isn't right,
Yeah,
and the second person is right. It's not till you get to the third, because you don't even know what you need.
yeah,
And look, I'll look at myself, like that thing. I lost my buddy Brian fell off a motorcycle. We lost him, not lost him. He's still fine, but we ended up with a guy where I didn't trust sensibility. I promoted somebody out of desperation who was not simpatico with, but kept the trains running through COVID. And it wasn't until a third hire. So I think to a certain extent, if your goal is to be out, to sort of like, I wished you luck. I still wish you luck and hope that you miraculously get this. You don't even know what the right person is in
right.
some respects. You're basing it on who's sitting in your office right now. And not that like there's nothing better than a bench, but what is the process you have a process for everything. What was the process for this person being onboarded to be able to fill your shoes? As far as sensibility, look, as I'm seeing right now, I get from a number of people, including some of my leadership, this knee jerk. It's either this or that, and sometimes it's like, hey, let's talk about it tomorrow. Let's
Yeah.
let it simmer. We have a new employee. We talked about this. Great guy we hired as our full-time videographer. He commutes from Pennsylvania. ADP did not get his paycheck processed because it's another state that we're not set up in. I don't want this guy not to get paid. I can PayPal or Venmo him, or we can cut him. There are lots of options. I got a panicked call. What are we going to do? Accounting won't cut this right away. I'm like, you know what? They're doing end of year stuff. They shouldn't be pivoting in 2 seconds. Like they can't, like if you want to be getting end of year numbers and projections and budgeting, you can't. So like, you know what? Okay, the guy's not going to starve. If I have to PayPal money into his account, this is not like what Fortune 500 companies do, but we can solve that problem. Go back to the main focus, which is the stuff I talked about at the beginning of the day, where we have to figure out how do you deal with an attorney who's not playing ball with the junior people, senior people don't want to play ball. Like, how do you, so my point is, if I'm paying somebody 6 figures, they don't need to be plugging a hole. Now, like, I don't want somebody not to get paid, don't get me wrong, but I want to make sure that we prioritize it and we don't stop the firm for a one-off where we can figure that out. She doesn't know that I have access to a PayPal and a Venmo that could get him money. Is it the right way to do it? Is it going to be a pain to be able to put the money for tax purposes in? Yes. But to me, going back to you, it's, hey, it's great to say you're out, but what is that process of that transition? And does this person have a formula of what they're allowed to do, what they're not allowed to do? And I apologize for
That's really interesting to me. One of the things that I do in my systems group is I post the systems that I think people should have, and we have an in case of emergency list of all the different things. And as you were talking about that, I went on it, and in my own personal wiki, I don't have an entry for somebody didn't get paid this week. So now I have to go in and add that because I do have a way of doing it.
right.
We've had that happen because somebody forgot to fill out their checking account routing number and their online, whatever it is.
And I have some bonuses to pay or some, performance, and like, they missed the last payroll. Money solves every problem. It's one of my sayings. It's like, hey, you know what? If we pay ADP a few dollars, a few shekels more, they'll throw some money at people. Or we'll do something to drive my accountant crazy. We'll write them some freaking checks. Not the way he wants us to do it, but like we'll get through.
But he can figure it out.
Right.
Exactly.
Awesome.
We're coming to the end of the year. I think this is going to probably be our last show of the year. We usually end.
No show from Del Boca Vista.
No, I don't. I think I'm going to give you a week off because we normally take the week between Christmas and New Year's off, and then we start fresh. Kicking it in a new year. At least that's what we've done the last 2 years.
We could throw a best of up there.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm just sort of wondering, do you have any resolutions for yourself for 2022? I know we've talked about things that you're going to stop doing, but is there anything that you really want to focus on? I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised at mine.
So look, a lot of good news growth-wise. Last year was not good. We both talked the criminal defense stuff. Really, PPP hit a lot of issues, but revenue-wise was not great. We had a really nice year this year. A lot of good stuff going on. I think that my resolution is to continue that process of figuring out where the one-offs are and pushing those aside and working and putting our effort towards the scalable, profitable areas, A, and B, it's trying to make sure that that as the thing that is good and bad, I feel like it's a constant cat and mouse game with intake, where I add, as we do better, it puts strain on intake. And so I need to figure out how to continuously scale and add layers. it's like SEO. It's easy to do it yourself for yourself and a few buddies. To do it at scale for a lot of people, really, really challenging. And I feel that that is one of those things that as you keep getting successful, figuring out how to make sure that you keep that quality up as you grow.
Yeah, one of the things that I've been thinking about recently is that a lot of people look overseas for talent to be able to answer their phones and help them with that initial intake process. But the training and getting people who can actually handle it is really challenging because you can't just hand somebody who lives in Honduras or in Mexico, even if they worked in a Comcast call center, a phone and tell them, okay, get these questions from people and get them answered and then serve them up to me. Because intake isn't just answering questions and putting it into a form. Intake truly is developing a relationship with people through the phone or through text message or Facebook messages or whatever. And it takes a little more skill and a little more tact than just sticking somebody in a butt in a seat. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of people look to these companies for a warm body, but you really need more than just a warm body. You need somebody with skills.
Yeah, I've
And
been doing,
so,
yeah, I've been mapping this out. I think there's an opportunity here. I think that the training, again,
yeah,
and it's not one off, but there are two pieces to training, right? There's training to get somebody so that they're in the ballpark, and then the firms have to be able to put their own thumbprint on how it's done there. And again, I've been mapping that out. I think there's an opportunity, hopefully in 2022, I'll be able to maybe even bring something to market that would be able to bring those two pieces together, because again, it is something that I know that I need to scale, and figuring out that sort of how do you get somebody firm ready is
yeah.
really a great challenge.
I mean, and the reason why I bring it up is simply because I've got all these people overseas. I've got some through an agency, some through direct hire through my aunt who's a missionary in El Salvador, and we just did sort of half year reviews for a number of people, as we come to the end of the year, and we're talking people who are now 6, 7 months into it, and they're like, I finally feel comfortable. And I feel like I can bob and weave with a phone call, and that's for the solo out there who's drinking from a fire hose and says I need to get somebody in yesterday.
Well,
If they're in a situation where they get somebody in but they don't have the 6 month lead time, that's a real problem, and you could turn off business. It can
well,
hurt your
even with that, I think that that's a misnomer, because it's not like I believe that we can do a lot with training and leveraging overseas labor. It's the person who, look, you have friends, some that are more public on the interwebs that you've talking back. If you have a broken business model and you bring somebody in, and just like we were talking before, if you can't get your sensibilities to your manager, if you can't get your sensibilities and systems, if you don't have systems and you expect somebody who's, there's an extra level, the hurdle is slightly higher when dealing with somebody who is not either educated or living in the US, that it's that much more challenging. And so it's not a panacea. It is a useful tool that can help build, but that this idea that it's magic beans just isn't true.
I think you're right. I think you're right. It's a lot to sort of digest as we end out this year. But Seth, I know you're heading out of town and you're going to be heading to the great state of Florida, to the warmth. I almost feel like flying down there just to hang out with you for a day or two. I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm getting older, but I'm getting sick of the cold. I was last night. I was looking at trips to Aruba. I'm looking at property in Florida. Where can I buy? I have an opportunity to buy an apartment in Midtown Manhattan that's off the market without paying any commission, in a building that my uncle's on the co-op board for, and I could get it seriously undervalued. And I'm like, do I want to invest all this money in Midtown Manhattan, or should I just buy a place in Florida, or somewhere on an island?
I go Aruba. I'm a big
Yeah,
Aruba fan.
yeah, I'm a huge Aruba fan. First trip I took with my wife. But I wanted to say Happy New Year, Seth, to you and your family. I hope you have a wonderful time down there. I'm sure we will talk over the next couple of weeks. One thing you should be on the lookout for, and I'm going to send it to you after we get off this recording. In my systems group, I have been posting systems for law firms, but I spent some time. I found online Jeffrey Epstein, who was a scumbag. I don't have a problem saying that from everything we know about the guy, but he had a very detailed system for running his household. So we went in, we took some of the ideas, we added some of our own, cleaned it up, and this week, in on Friday in my systems group, I'm going to be releasing a 25-page booklet on how to systemize your home as a
Oh,
professional.
I
So
look.
it's
I think
everything
that
you
look.
need.
No,
Give it
no,
to
no.
your
But
cleaning
I've been
lady,
telling you.
give
But
it to your
no, no, no.
everybody.
Look. First world issue. We have a cleaning lady. She's been with her 15 years. It's awesome. But like there is and this is my own mishigas. The idea that clothes get clean but don't make it to the shelf, and I'm sitting there in the morning trying to get out, and I'm trying to look for the stuff. Again, could do everything myself. I choose to outsource this and let somebody else do it. But the idea that it is not systematizing, it stops short of, and I'm looking for matching up socks and then going to tennis at 6:15 in the morning blows my mind. So I cannot wait to read
Yeah.
this.
This is great. I'm very happy with how it came out. So I'm going to put that out there for everybody. So if you're listening and you want to get your house systemized, now's your chance to do it. Join us in the Systemizing Your Law Firm for Growth Facebook group. Come on Friday. You're going to have a 25-page ebook you can download, and it tells you how to clean your bedroom, how to clean your bathroom, how all the maintenance you need to do on your house in every quarter and then
Well, but
semi-annually.
Jay, you know what the deal is,
It's
though?
awesome.
To me, I'm going to give my unsolicited 2 cents here. It's got to come in some sort of a malleable format, something where they can, because the idea is, it's who cares? I know you did a great job and you took that amazing Epstein document and turned it into something for yourself. But the idea is, just like we talked about earlier in this show, it only works if it works for you. And so making sure that you take
I've got
this.
checklists in there. You
No,
can
no, no.
print
But the
out the
idea,
page.
but the whole point is that's the starting point. It's
Right.
not this is a system as gospel. It's you take it and you say, okay, I need to adjust it because I have 2 floors and this is made for one, whatever it is.
Right.
But just like with the firm, systems are great, but are they adapted to where you are right now? And that's sort of
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing. You got to take it and you got to customize it. I mean, that's really at the end of the day. Bespoke is always going to be better, but we can start with the framework and make it go. But anyway, folks,
awesome.
that's going to do it for us. Thank you so much for being with us. As always, you can catch us here on the Maximum Growth Live Show every Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific, or catch us wherever podcasts are available. But for now, with my man Seth heading off to Florida, and for me, I want to say thank you for being with us this year on Maximum Growth Live. Have a wonderful holiday weekend with your family if you're celebrating. Have a phenomenal new year. We'll see you in 2022. Bye for now.